This is Underdog Portfolio Weekly, hosted by Scott Con.
Good evening, everyone. It is grind time. Welcome back to Underdog Portfolio Weekly, and this is going to be a very, very chill, laid-back session where I am just going to make, as it says on the clock, a bunch of picks in the next hour, hour and a half. I see a bunch of familiar faces in the chat, bunch of people from our Discord over at Destination Devi, patreon.com/allgas. We got Cheeky. Good evening, Cheeky. How you doing? Ty Declare with the fire emoji. Ty doing good stuff on the trade show every single week. What's up, Ty? Dr. B. Harris. Got to hang out with Dr. B. Harris quite a bit at the expo. What's up to Dr. B? Terrell. Good evening, good people. Terrell, how are you doing? Nick Pick 6, same thing. Hope everybody's having a good week so far. It's been a busy week. It's been a busy week. A lot of stuff with Destination Devi changing. Anybody that's in the community has heard some of the stuff that Ray has dropped and a lot more to come. But yeah, it's been a good week, but also a busy week. So thank you for being here, Nick. And Terrell, wonder how many people have been upset waiting for me to make my picks. We'll get to that in a second. I am on the clock in 52 drafts at this point. But I'm in over 150, and I figured with an 8-hour clock, the timer is going to be reduced on all slow drafts probably tomorrow, cut in half to 4. So this was the last opportunity to conceivably do something like this. So I wanted to make the quasi-last episode of Underdog Portfolio Weekly, literally just making picks. But yeah, I stopped making picks today about noon, 12:30. That way a bunch of teams will be on the clock for this show. So I'm going to get to that here. Just a second. Gump in the building. What is good? Gump doing some good stuff on the DD betting front. We'll be having a return of Gump's college football podcast coming this year on DD as well. Ja Webb. See Ja Webb in our streams all the time. Ja Webb, what is good, my friend? And Shank and Shig. See Shank and Shig in here to watch the professor work his magic. I don't know about that. I've been more like the student this year with best ball. I've seen some absolutely crazy best ball exposures out there. I can't remember the guy's Twitter handle, but the dude that has 92% Najee Harris. I don't know if anybody saw that, but just absolutely wild. Absolutely wild to have such a large portfolio. And we weren't talking a small portfolio. We were talking over 1,000 teams, more than like 10 grand in entry fees, and 92% Najee Harris. So talk about some conviction, and maybe it'll work out with the Jaylen Warren injury. That's something that I've taken advantage over the last week or so. Is ever since the Jaylen Warren injury, the benefit is when you're on the clock in this many drafts, especially over the weekend when stuff's actually happening, you can take advantage of just by happenstance. You know, if you're playing on a large portfolio, you have to bet on things that happened, meaning you have to maybe bet on Najee Harris versus Jaylen Warren in real time. And I think I took 6 or 7 Najee Harrises on Sunday and Saturday night, just based on the fact that maybe Jaylen Warren will miss time. If he doesn't, then I took Najee, half a round ahead of his ADP, but it ended up, maybe it works out well because his ADP has moved up over a round since then. So sometimes you have to make those bets, and it helps when you have so many teams on the clock. A couple others in here. Let me get to the board. Dynasty Barry. What's good? Shane. Yeah, Shane, you want to jump on here? Help me make some picks? Make some picks. All right, let's get to the board here. And we are officially on the clock in 51 drafts. And I have Spike Week up, so we'll be able to navigate through Spike Week and see a little bit of this as well. But we'll start with some of these are going to be repetitive. So if you got any questions, dynasty questions, just want to chat, throw it in the chat, because some of these are going to be just pure process picks where I don't even really analyze much. I don't even really think of much. I'm just like, need another receiver, need a running back. Let's just take the best player available and roll from there. So this is a puppy 3. This is just a typical single QB 18-round draft. I will say I've only done 25 puppy 3s, which you can see. Spike Week is great because you can literally classify each one by tournament. So I've only done 25 puppy 3s, and all of the puppy 3s that I have done just thus far have been fast drafts, except for maybe 5 slow drafts that I entered. And so most of these have been fast drafts already, and I'm just creeping in a couple slows just to maybe get some different teams. So what I've been doing, though, is Cody Cody's getting to it. We'll get to that here in a second after we make a couple picks. We can't get right into that. We got to do some underdog picks. Otherwise, I'm going to fall behind, and some of these will start timing out. But here's what I've been doing. The last probably 100 drafts I've done, I have just been ripping receivers. I have taken 6 receivers in the first 7 picks. Bar none, no exceptions. And I'll try to mix in a tight end or a quarterback if they fall in the right spot. But like this has been essentially every draft that I've done. So A.J. Brown, Marvin Harrison, Steph Diggs, Zay Flowers, Deontay Johnson, and I worked in Dalton Kincaid in there just because he fell past his ADP a little bit here. But pretty much it's just ripping receiver, and that is for a specific reason. I think receivers right now are extremely difficult to predict on the back end, meaning once you get past the range of, I posted on Twitter the other day, Jalen Polk, Darnell Mooney, A.D. Mitchell. Like, I really don't want to draft any receivers in those ranges. And that's just how I've built a lot of these puppy teams. That's not the entire portfolio, but I decided if I'm going to enter these puppies, I'm basically just going to rip 0 RB teams all the way down the line. And big deal. They're $5 entries. I'm only going to probably end up doing about 50 of them. So we're just going to get a bunch of different combos and try to take advantage of some of their running back values. So here, the only receiver still on the board, if I want to fulfill that, is one of these two, Ladd McConkey, Jordan Addison. I'm at the 7-11. I'm going to be picking a running back here coming up at this spot. So I have a couple options. I can go with a running back with some correlation, or I can take one of the last 2 receivers in that range where I'm comfortable taking the receivers, because there's only a sporadic few down here where I'm actually interested in taking them. So you get down to maybe Sutton, Palmer, Shakir. Like there's a couple options I'll take down there, but mostly these are just going to be 7 receiver builds. So I am just going to rip a Ladd McConkey. I don't have a lot of Ladd McConkey, so we're going to go there, and that is it. It gives me another chance to stack, and I only need to take one more receiver on that team. So maybe we'll come back to that one later. But now we're into some more fun ones. And these are going to be these marathons. And I'm going to try to rip a bunch of marathons here in a row. And these are interesting because this is a $2 million guaranteed prize pool in the marathon. And it is only about 40. Let me check right now, see how full it is. So the marathon is only 40% full. And the season starts in 15 days. So this is a tournament that is not going to fill. And so the $15 entries compared to the $2 million prize pool is going to be extremely advantageous. So I decided, you know what, let's enter 50 of these marathons. And the difference with the marathons, it is just straight points from week 1 to 17. So correlation doesn't matter as much. Playing for week 15, 16, 17 does not matter at all. I mean, obviously, you want to have players that are getting better at that point, but the correlation and trying to outmaneuver 672,000 plus teams just doesn't really matter. So I have taken these approaches, and it's funny because every one of these marathon drafts I am in, Ray is in. Every one of them. I entered 50. He's in all 50 because I think we both saw the same sort of edge in terms of how many teams have played this contest thus far, and it only being 40% full. It's been up since mid-May, and it's only 40% full. So I'm going to go over to Spike Week here and just show you the marathon exposure. And most of these are only in like round 3 to 5. But you can see the marathon exposure percentages right here. All I am doing in the marathons is ripping elite running backs. That's it. Taylor, A-Chain, Bijan, Barkley, Pacheco, Breece Hall, Jahmyr Gibbs, Derrick Henry, Christian McCaffrey. That's it. Those are the only guys I'm taking. Some Travis Etienne, sure. And then I'm going right to elite quarterbacks. And if I can stack an elite quarterback with an elite tight end, I'm doing that. But as you see, like there's hardly any exposure to other players. I did take a random Justin Jefferson, a random A.J. Brown, a random Amon-Ra, but that is it. So this is what has been very nice to kind of go contrary to a lot of the 0 RB teams. So these drafts, I mean, this draft, I have McCaffrey, Pacheco, Etienne, and Trey McBride. So the option would be to go with another running back. The option would also be to reach on Kyler Murray, which is probably what I should do because I'm not going to pick again until all the way back into the 60s. or I just start taking a receiver. So I do have to take some receivers. It's tempting to take somebody like Kenneth Walker, but probably the better bet would be just to take a receiver because I do want to get a couple receivers maybe that have some high touchdown potential. And I do think Higgins with the Jamar Chase stuff is probably a decent bet to start taking a couple innings eating receivers here. So I'm going to go with T. Higgins here. But anytime you see these marathons and they are in round 2 through 5, I am probably almost exclusively focused on getting those running backs inside the top 10. Josh Jacobs is pretty much the cutoff. Maybe some Ken Walker, maybe some Rachaad White. And then when we get down to the Najee range, just not super interested in taking guys maybe on weaker offenses, somebody like Kamara, just not super interested in those guys in the marathon because I'm really focused on trying to draft the hammers because it's pure points. And at the high end, if the volume and or touchdown variance is correct at the high end, you're looking for as many points from somebody like Pacheco or Henry. And, you know, it's a total race versus you're trying to play for the playoff weeks. So here's another marathon. McCaffrey, Pacheco, and look at this. Look at the running backs. It is not just me that is doing this. Look at this second round. Derrick Henry, Kyron Williams, Travis Etienne, Isaiah Pacheco. I took Pacheco earlier. But it's all these guys are gone. This ADP is irrelevant in the marathon. If this was a BBM, you would see people ripping 3, 4, 5, 6 receivers. Here, it's the complete opposite, to the point where I don't pick again until the turn. So I'm here at 24-25. I don't pick again until 48-49. I'm not going to get any of the elite quarterbacks. I'm pretty much subject to ending up with one of these QBs down here, almost exactly like I just showed, where if I want Kyler McBride, I have to take McBride here, and then I would have to take Kyler. Otherwise, I'm going to get shut out on the elite quarterbacks and or the elite tight end. This is not available when you pick McCaffrey. So the option would be literally take Josh Jacobs here, which is a reach. Could go with a tight end here. Or you just knock out one of the elite quarterbacks, which is what I'm going to do. We are just going to rip Josh Allen here and be done with it. Bank that I have the QB1. What that will do is that will take because I know Ray is here at the 303. Ray will take a quarterback. He will go Mahomes. He will go Hurts. He will go Lamar. And we're going to start a run where all of those elite QBs will be gone in the next 6 picks. So we're just going to roll with Josh Allen. And I'm going to end up with a bunch of teams that are going to be very much the same. Now, the beauty is there's about 10 running backs and 4 quarterbacks plus the elite tight ends that are in this range. So I'm going to get different combos. But really where these teams are going to separate themselves is going to be some of the later receivers if you can hit on some of the receivers that I am not picking in some of the other drafts. So let's roll here with another marathon. And let's see. This team I did go Amon-Ra early, the 107, because Brees and Bijan and McCaffrey were already gone. So I decided just to take a random Amon-Ra. But that also means that I'm going to be able to come back and I'm picking in a range where I'm going to be able to get one of those elite QBs. And I was banking that I'd be able to get Henry, Pacheco, Etienne. I mean, look at this. The only guy available is Etienne. All the others went. So that is kind of a blessing to be able to get him here right at his ADP. So we're going to go Etienne. And I'll come back around in that draft and take a quarterback. So we're done with that one. See if I can find another more interesting marathon. Let's hit a BBM 5 here. I still need to do 25 BBM 5s, and these have been very interesting because obviously we've been drafting them all season. And so the ownership percentages are getting up there to where I'm starting to evaluate, do I need specifically more of certain players? So this team, we've got a 1-1-4 build going, Mahomes, McCaffrey, Devontae Adams, who I have very little of, so I've started to take a couple. Even though I don't feel great about it, I want to get a couple of them. And then Ayuk, who's been falling way past his ADP. ADP is at 26. And before it was in the mid-second round, so he's been a nice click in the 3rd round if you didn't have a lot of him earlier, which I usually didn't have a ton of him. And then Mahomes with Hollywood Brown and Xavier Worthy. So don't have a lot of triple stacks. Hollywood Brown has been falling quite a bit. So this team, we're in round 7 right now. So we're at a 1-1-4 build. And in round 7, we have Alvin Kamara here. I already have McCaffrey. I've already taken a quarterback, which means I'm probably going to go right to receiver and start looking at some of my rostership percentages. Don't have a lot of Keon Coleman. I've built very little Keon Coleman. And Dynasty Barry, I see your comment. Can you share your regular season exposure with us, Scott, for each position? Yep, I'll go to that here in a second on Spike Week. So I don't have a lot of Keon Coleman. I have a lot more JSN. So I'm just going to click Keon Coleman here, and maybe I can build back with a second QB. One guy I've been trying to get more is Tyler Conklin. And so that's some natural correlation with Keon Coleman. And I just don't have a lot of Coleman, and his ADP hasn't gotten out of control. It hasn't moved up as quickly from where he started to where like Roma Dunze started or where Brian Thomas started. So I'm kind of fine just clicking Keon Coleman there. Would have taken those other guys ahead of him probably, but get some more Coleman. So we'll add him. And then we are done for a little while on that one. All right, let's go through. Here's one, a mini Schnauzer. That is another small tournament that I max entered when it came out. And let's see what we got going on this one. So this is a single QB, pretty standard. Went Jonathan Taylor in the second. Went five straight receivers, Amon-Ra Evans, T. Higgins, Calvin Ridley, Hollywood Brown. With George Kittle, we're working on a little correlation there. And here we're sitting at the 906. And I have options at quarterbacks that are still left. Goff still there. Mayfield still there. Burrow still there. Levis still there. Obviously, Mahomes is gone. And then Brock Purdy is still there. So we still have stack options. So I'm going to go over here and see what we got left at receiver. It's just Shakir. So this one I'll probably wait. This is the range where at some point people have to stop taking receivers. And I really don't want to take two guys in this range just because the running backs are too good coming off the board. So then we'll pivot over here and some perfect correlation to that T. Higgins. Only 12% in this slate compared to Chase Brown, who's my highest rostered player in all of Underdog. And then Tony Pollard. So since I already have Calvin Ridley, I'm going to go with Javonte Williams, who's seemingly been a lot more popular in the last week or two than he was previously. So we'll take some Javonte Williams there. Gives me a third running back, gives me some correlation. Maybe if Joe Burrow comes back, I'll take Burrow, and then I have a nice little triple stack with Denver and Cincinnati in week 17. Let's see. Let's hit a couple more marathons. These marathons will be easy to knock out, and then I will get to your question, Dynasty Barry. So this marathon, we are in round 3, and shocking, I have started Christian McCaffrey, Derrick Henry, and it's just too easy. It is just too easy here to rip Isaiah Pacheco. I mean, come on. Giving me McCaffrey, Henry, Pacheco, probably 2 of the top 8 projected running backs. And you're really, people have asked, why take so many running backs when you're not taking them in BBM 5s? And it's truthfully just because they are projected to score the most points. Now, the problem is, in a BBM 5, you not only have to make it out of your pod, but you have to then advance for 3 weeks out of pods again. So you're really, really trying to get the outcomes right. Here, it's just really scoring the most points early and trying to have some of these teams hang on. And I know that if I go McCaffrey, Henry, Pacheco, the odds that 2 of these guys are still going strong towards the back third of the season is low. But if one of them does, it's going to be able to carry me along with the elite quarterback strategy. It's going to be able to carry me a little bit further than if I'm relying on the receivers in a half PPR. So we're going to go with Isaiah Pacheco there. Jeff, let's see. What'd you say? If I sent you my list of player breakdowns, would you check it out and let me know your thoughts? Sure. I mean, you can DM it to me. Player breakdowns. I don't know what you mean by player breakdowns, but sure, man. I'm always open to looking at new stuff. So send me whatever you got and I'll take a look at it, but explain to me what it is. If it's just player breakdowns, I'm obviously not your guy for player takes, truthfully. Like this is you haven't heard me really give a player take much other than more of specific opinion if I have one on a specific guy. But other than that, I'm usually not the player take guy. So here's another marathon. JT, Saquon. One thing I've had to be careful on is a lot of these drafts, depending on where you pick, I just end up going JT Saquon, JT Gibbs, JT Achan. Like I'm ending up with the same combinations of, some of these guys. So I'm trying to mix it up within the top 10 running backs. I'm trying to get a bunch of different combos. Here, we're down to Josh Jacobs because you've seen all these have been ripped. There's Ray right there at the 310. So, of course, Ray ripped that Josh Allen. Kelsey and Mahomes are here, so this one's easy. This is I haven't had many of these picks on the turn, but this is exactly fitting right into the strategy. So I'm going to go with first pick Mahomes, first pick Kelsey, second pick Mahomes. And now I've started with the JT, Saquon, Kelsey, Mahomes stack. So I absolutely love that. That's my first one. There's been a couple times where I'm picking here, like where Ray is, and I try to take Kelsey with Allen, Hurts, Mahomes still on the board, and then somebody takes Mahomes. And it just makes no sense. So with these, I'm really glad to be able to get. I've taken a couple of Lamar Andrews. This is my first Kelsey Mahomes in the marathon. I mean, I still have probably 20 drafts that haven't even gotten to this point yet. But it's maddening when I usually go the QB first, like Ray did here. But then I had one earlier where I went Mahomes at the 310. Someone went Kelsey Laporta on the turn. Dumb. This is a total points race. Why would you take two tight ends this early? Makes no sense, but ruined my first Kelsey Mahomes shot, so that sucks. But yeah, it makes no sense in a marathon to go two tight ends that early. It really doesn't make sense in a tournament. You might be able to be a little bit of a bully in your pod, but you're not advancing all the way to the end with two elite tight ends, not in a half PPR format. I don't understand that one at all. All right, so let's hit up a couple more marathons, and then I'll hit over to Spike Week for whole Dynasty Barry and show some of my exposures. So what do we got working here? We got a Bijan and a Gibbs, which is nice. Got Bijan at 9, which is awesome, and then Gibbs at 16. So I'm not going to probably have a lot of Bijan Gibbs. But since then, all the running backs have been ripped, and so we're down to Jacobs. I can always get Jacobs on the way back probably. Quarterbacks, Josh Allen. I've taken a lot of Josh Allen. Yeah, 9% Josh. So basically, I've got Josh Allen on 2 teams with Bijan. Mahomes is gone. So Kelsey is gone. So both Mahomes and Kelsey are gone in this one. So there's no option to get that Mahomes-Kelsey stack. I'm kind of feeling it's so hard for me to take Lamar over Allen. And I bet you I could make this a Lamar, Andrews, Bijan, Gibbs. But I'm going to go with Allen and then see what comes back to me. Allen and Kincaid is tough to do in the marathon because you're definitely reaching on Kincaid. But ultimately, I don't really care about the ADP here. So I'm going to go with Allen. Maybe it'll give me an option to take Kincaid if Laporta and maybe another tight end go, which at least one of those tight ends will go because you still have Laporta on board. If like Laporta went, I could justify taking McBride at the next, or taking Kincaid at the next pick and not sweating it because I do not have any Allen Kincaid yet in the marathon. So we'll go with Allen there. Shane, then you have to overdraft Zay. No, because I would have been able to get Andrews, but that is an interesting point. That because I'm not taking the receivers, usually that receiver range that you would find going here, the Zays, the Texans receivers, Higgins, Cooper, Pickens, Rashee Rice, like all of those guys fall a little bit in this format because the running backs get pushed up, but none of their quarterbacks are ones that I'm super interested in taking other than Lamar. So like I'm not really into CJ Stroud, Joe Burrow, those types in this format. So maybe I will have to find a way to get like some Lamar, Zay Flowers, because I do want to stack. I mean, you ultimately are still shooting for max points. So having stacks helps. You're just not playing things through the same roster construction or correlation. And I think a lot of these are going to end up being like 2, and I'll probably go 3 quarterback builds here, which is going to be interesting in a format where you're taking an elite QB. Just because anytime that elite QB isn't playing, like you want to have multiple other options just because they score so many points. So that'll be interesting to think about 3 QB builds with guys like Jalen Hurts, Josh Allen, Pat Mahomes. I don't think a lot of people are going to do that in this tournament. But I think shooting for sheer points, I want to make sure I get more at the quarterback position rather than less. All right, so we got one. Allen, Brees, Henry, Kincaid. There we go. Got an Allen, Kincaid. Mark Andrews is still sitting on the board. Ooh. So I love having the Brees, Allen, Kincaid, Henry. It's tempting to take Andrews, but he's just not going to score enough points. So probably, you know what? I'm going to go with Joe Mixon. Not going to take a lot of Joe Mixon here. If we did get to week 17 and there was a reason for some correlation, he does have correlation with Derrick Henry. Now, the risk with running back correlation is what are the odds that Henry and Mixon actually make it to week 17 together to correlate? Probably pretty low, but you never know. Could be a shootout game, and you are shooting for points in the end as well. So I don't mind correlation. I just don't put the same importance on it in other teams. So we'll go with Mixon. Let me see what Chef said here. I am scouting players, writing up their fantasy versus NFL impact, and you are concise and precise, which helps me know if I'm making crap or not. Sure. Yeah, send it to me, man. I will comment on your presentation and on what you're trying to do, but in terms of my opinions on players like that, you guys don't want that from me. Every once in a while, people will put my feet to the fire for player takes and player opinions, but most of the time I just deferred. I'm like, well, what category does this player fit in? And that's pretty much it. So here's one. Here's a slow puppy. I did a bunch of these slow puppies. They came out probably 4 weeks ago, and I just mass entered a bunch. So most of them are down towards the end. So this is nice to change it up a little bit and get some later picks. So we're looking at a 2-5-7-2 build. Richardson, Stafford, Pacheco, Cook, Warren, Singletary, Gibson. Obviously, this was a pick before Warren's injury, which is a little depressing. And you can see the color codes here shows correlation. Green means I have a stack. So Richardson and Stafford, we have stacks with both of them. We have A.D. Mitchell and we have Colby Parkinson. So we have a stack with both. And then the yellow indicates that there's correlation during these playoff weeks. So obviously Richardson with the Giants, Stafford week 16 with the Jets, good correlation with all of the running backs other than Antonio Gibson, and then the receivers, correlation with a lot of them. You can also use this team view and your correlation number of game stacks by week. As you can see right here, we have 4 game stacks in week 17. So I'm liking where I'm at with this team, given that I have Warren and he has been injured since I drafted this team. Pacheco, Cook, Warren as an RB3. This is probably going to be a 2-6-8-2 team. So let's take a look at the board. I have Tucker Kraft in the queue, but since I took Parkinson already, I'll just tell you guys, I am leaning away from 3 tight end builds. But this is a tight end room here where if you told me maybe you want to take a third, I could see it. I did want to get more Tucker Kraft because he's literally going in the last round. But I don't think I need to take him right here. So there's some correlation. I could go Theo Johnson, Tucker Kraft. See what else we got available. Let's go to the receivers. And this is precisely why the receivers, I do not want to be taking them in the last rounds. I mean, the slow puppy's only been open for a couple weeks, but if this was a best ball mania, all of these guys have been drafted at a fairly high rate. I mean, guys like Troy Franklin, Javon Baker, Roman Wilson, Tyler Boyd. I mean, these guys are going to have massive ownership percentages in BBM5, over 50%. And they're also all risky. Every one of these guys, Baker, Franklin, Roman Wilson, they're all risky. They're all risky to even really have roles. That's just not where I want to be fishing. And they've been replaced by the Jordan Whittingtons of the world. Brendan Rice coming on, Trey Tucker coming on, a couple others. I mean, Diami Brown. They've been replaced by those names. And so I really don't want to be fishing in the receiver waters unless there is a stack. And I bet you Whittington is already, Whittington's already taken. Whittington went at, let's see, definitely in the last round, I would think. See where he went in this draft. Yeah, Whittington went at the 16-10. So that was the perfect. I have Stafford. All I have is Parkinson with Stafford. Let me throw on Whittington, and he's gone. So there's not really a receiver stack that I want to take. And I've said, I don't really want to stack or correlate these type of receivers. I mean, sure, I could draft Trey Tucker because he has some correlation with Chris Olave. I could draft Darius Slayton because he has correlation with Anthony Richardson. But I mean, we're just guessing with the receivers. If I was going to pick one, it would have to be a rookie. It would probably be somebody that I don't have any correlation with, which likely looks like Brendan Rice. But it kind of makes sense to go with a third tight end here. Like, honestly, it kind of makes sense for me to take a shot on like Theo Johnson. I have no Theo Johnson and I have Anthony Richardson. So that's where I'm going to go. I'm going to go with the third tight end here. It probably means I'm going to have to stay slim at running back unless there's one that I really want to get more of. Maybe Madison. Don't really want to handcuff. Kendre Miller, yuck. I have a ton of Estime. But really, it's probably going to end up being another tight end and then another running back or receiver. So we're going to roll with some Theo Johnson here just because I have A-Rich and I don't have a lot of Anthony Richardson. Yeah, Dr. B says Granson. I'm good, man. I've wanted to get more Theo Johnson, and really the only teams that make sense to get him are when you have Giants correlation already. So we're going to go with Theo Johnson with this pick. Boom. Let's see. Richie, am I hammering Darnold in my remaining slow puppies? Yeah, I mean, I have, see if we get to some Superflex ones too. I was able to sneak some Darnolds through. Here's a Superflex one. And I'll just tell everybody, I underestimated how many picks I'm going to be able to make on the stream. So there's no way I'm going to be able to make 50. There's going to be, I think I'm on the clock in like 65 drafts right now. So going to have to kind of chunk through these. But here's the Superflex drafts. And I've done a ton of Superflex drafts that were just quarterback. And this one obviously was not, where I only ended up with Stroud, took Stafford in the third, and then waited and took Bryce Young. So I've had a couple where Darnold made sense, where he falls to like round, let's see where he went in this draft. We're already in the 15th, but I'm curious if we go to the board, where did Darnold go here? Because this one would have been going on when the McCarthy injury happened. So we're all the way here. Yep, there you go. So I took Bryce Young over Darnold. Darnold went in round 6. Here's been the value. Let's see where Bo Nix went. Bo Nix. Oh, where is Bo? Bo must have went higher than I thought in this one. Maybe I'm missing him. Baker. There we go. Bo Nix. So Bo Nix went in round 6. But there has been some falling Bo Nix value where he's fallen maybe in round 7, round 8. Same with Darnold. And there's only been a couple teams when I've been able to take advantage of that. Because if I have 3 quarterbacks, a lot of these Pomeranians and Superflex puppies, I've just ripped 3 quarterbacks in the first 3 rounds. You know, there's that cutoff where you get around Tua, Jared Goff, Justin Herbert, Trevor Lawrence. Like I'm ripping 3 quarterbacks and then I'm done. So on those, when I'm sitting there in round 7 and Nix is there, or Darnold is there, Bryce Young is there, like I don't really want to take them because I literally have to build out the other positions. I mean, because running backs are more important here because you're only starting 2 receivers. So I just haven't been able to do it because I don't want to spend that capital on a 4th QB. So here we are in, round 15? Yeah, we're looking at a 3-4-5-2 build. These teams are usually 6 or 7 receivers just because you're probably going 4 quarterbacks, 3 tight ends, or 3 quarterbacks, 3 tight ends, just depending on who your tight ends are. Here I have Njoku and Schultz, so I could probably stick with 2. But probably looking at another receiver running back here. Let's see, what do we got? Got some Leggett correlation with, and the Superflex ADP is irrelevant. Like, this is the least likely of tournaments that I care about the ADP, only because I know I'm constructing teams a little bit differently than others are. So I don't mind just kind of straying for the sake of trying to get some correlation. So I think with Wright, Ray Davis, Connor, Tajay Spears, I'll gamble that Leggett comes back to me. See what we got out here at running back. Oh, Bucky Irving. Got some correlation with Deontay Johnson and Bryce Young. That is a perfect Bucky Irving selection on this team with my Bryce and my Deontay. So Bucky Irving, come on down. And boom, we are locked in there. So, all right, Dynasty Bear, you waited long enough. Appreciate you being here, my friend. As always, good to see you. Let's go to, what do you want to see? You want to see BBM 5? I mean, that's where I have the most drafts. I mean, I think I'm at 125, and I think a couple of them are going on right now. So this is synced for 123. So here's what we got. Let's see. Just BBMs. Total money. So just in BBMs, here's my BBM exposure. Let me make it a little bit bigger for you. By position. All right, cool. Filter by position. hold on. Let me work through this. There's numerous screens I can go to do this. So, and by position. All right. Filter by. Sorry, this is terrible broadcasting. I think I have to probably go to a different screen. Here we go. By position. BBM 5s. Go down here. You know what? I'm going to go on the, it'll be easier just to go on the Underdog site. There's so many things on Spike Week you have to filter through. So let me just go to Underdog and you can see it through there. All right. So this isn't going to be as synced because these are only completed drafts. I've only completed 98. So let's go to completed drafts. Let's go to exposures. And here we go. And we'll get the BBM 5. So, well, you know what? We don't even need. We'll just go with what I have. This is through all the 336 that have been completed so far. So there you go by position. And we'll go by entry fees because that'll be weighted to what I have. But, yep, there you go, bro. So Chase Brown, Estime, Spears. I mean, you're not going to see an elite running back in sight for me. I mean, pretty much all of these guys are outside of the top 20. There might be a couple that are mixed in there. A lot of Jalen Warren, which is why I've been trying to get the Najee Harris exposure up because of the significant exposure to Warren. I mean, I have a ton of Spears, but also a ton of Pollard. A lot of Kendre, that hurts. Chuba Hubbard. I mean, literally, you don't see an elite running back in here. Probably the highest ADP running back I have exposure to is probably Najee, Swift, Montgomery. Achane, there you go. 8.6% Achane, 6.5% JT, 7.4% Bijan. Not a lot of Rashad White, Mixon, Brees, 6% Brees. And as you can see, why I've chosen to go the way that I did on the marathons is because, like, I don't have a lot of Brees or Bijan. I mean, I think I having less Gibbs, 6% Gibbs, 6% McCaffrey. I mean, McCaffrey, you're going to get what you get. You know, you have to get him at the 101 or 102. So, I mean, that's really probably nobody's going to have more than, I'd say, 9-10% McCaffrey. Just luck of the draw with how many drafts they've gotten. So let's see. And yeah, 100%, bro. That's exactly why I chose to do those marathons. The payouts were soft. Like, it's legit a $2 million prize pool, but it's only going to be like 60% full. So just the odds of being able to get that many entries in and built differently than, and Ray and I kind of talked about this, about kind of building them a little bit differently, but we're just kind of betting that nobody else is really going to build them that way. Some people are when you get in those rooms, but just felt like a nice arbitrage play to get in a tournament where it's a $2 million guaranteed prize pool, but also build teams largely different than we're building throughout all the other tournaments. So, and here you go. Here is the quarterback exposure. What do you guys think about that? That old 13% Fields. Now, a lot of those Fieldses were cheap, like last round. And I've backed off a little bit, but I kind of I'm low-key a little excited about that Fields exposure. I'm not going to call it a victory yet. But I was at one point like at 25% Fields. Like probably in my first 60 BBMs, I had 15 Fields. So I'm like, I'm going to back off a little bit. But I think it's pretty clear he's going to get a chance to play. Don't know when that's going to be. But I do feel like, especially, it's one thing Spike Week can do is you can actually look at your Fields teams and see how they're all structured. And how many of them are on 3 QB builds. I've had a couple where I've taken an elite quarterback, one of the guys that's on bye later on, like Allen or Daniels, and then added Fields and just gone with a 2 QB build with Fields. Risky, but if that team gets there, and now we have Fields in the playoffs, like that could be the difference. I mean, you're going to need your anchor QB to get you there all the way to the end. But I think if you're trying to win a big tournament, it's not a bad idea if Fields is playing at that point. Levis, have a ton of Levis. Watson, Geno. Again, have a lot of Mahomes. But you go down here, only 7% Allen, 6% Burrow, 7% Love. 8% Lamar, 9% Stroud, 6% Daniels, 8% Kyler, 6% Hurts, like not a 3.6% Anthony Richardson. That is one I'm going to have to get in the marathon. That is for sure. Some A-Rich, Jonathan Taylor pairs in the marathon could be huge. But I don't have a lot of the elite QBs in the standard tournaments either. So getting them in the marathon is actually going to be another hedge against how I'm building a lot of these. And yeah, 26% Lamar for you. I think that's interesting because that essentially tells me we've built teams quite differently at times. But I think being able to kind of recognize where, because I've drafted, there's been some days where I've done 20 drafts in a day. And now that you're this deep and you're like, man, I've built a lot of teams with like ripping 6 straight receivers, punting running back, which means you're going to look and you're going to look at your exposures and you're going to go, yeah, I got a ton of these running backs. You know what I'm not going to be taking in the marathons? These guys, Tajay Spears, Chase Brown. Like those guys are fine in tournaments, but in those I'm going to be avoiding them. So it really has been a nice way to get exposure in different places to players that I'm not taking in most of the standard tournaments. Receiver-wise, Rashee Rice. I got a lot of Rashee Rice when he was cheaper. I'm still taking him now, but there's been a lot of Rashee Rice when he's been cheaper. And so that's a nice one. Calvin Ridley, you're not taking a victory lap on the Hopkins injury, but a ton of Ridley before that. So getting him at a cheaper price than what a lot of people are taking him now. A lot of times he's going in early round 5, late round 4. Like as soon as that range of Higgins, Pickens, Cooper, McLaurin is off the board, people are avoiding Jaden Reed. People are avoiding Christian Kirk. It's like, let's just go Calvin Ridley. That's the next receiver up. JSN, a lot of McLaurin. Let's see, a lot of Jalen Polk. Jalen Polk has been the guy that if I need a 7th receiver, that's my stopping point. So Jalen Polk, I'm taking in a lot of situations where I have 6 good receivers. Like he's it. That's the last one. Javon Baker, that's one I've stopped drafting. I was drafting a ton of Javon Baker early. Let's see, any of these that I have low exposure to. Cortland Sutton, that is one that with the rise of Knicks, you've seen the rise of Sutton get a lot closer to that kind of higher end threshold tier receiver. I wish I had a little bit more of him. Anybody else I'm really low on? Cooper Kupp. That's one I struggle with because after the Puka injury, he started going in like the early to mid second, late second. And I wasn't taking him when he was even in the 3rd. And now he's wide receiver 15. And I'm like, man, it is hard for me to take Cooper Kupp over Chris Olave, Nico Collins, Jalen Waddle. Like I just can't do that, especially knowing a bunch of people have some, there's even some Marv, Puka, Cooper Kupp teams out there that were built early on when he was going in round 3. And I just can't match with that. So Michael Pittman, don't have a lot of him. The high-end receivers, only 6% Tyreek. Very low Devontae Adams, 4.8%. Keenan Allen. I was not drafting a lot of Keenan Allen, and that is one that I may have to get more. What do you guys think about Keenan Allen? Because he is one that he will sit, him and Hollywood Brown will sit on the board until we're down to like the JSN Jordan Addison range. And it's like, those are like the last couple receivers that'll go. I know he's wide receiver 35, but I bet you this is wide receiver 40 by the time the season ends. Like him and Hollywood are just falling to like the end of that top 45 receivers. Like they're falling to the bottom end range where it's like, oh, Keon Coleman, Brian Thomas, Roma Dunze, Lad McConkey, give me all those rookies over dusty Keenan Allen. So maybe I want to get some more Keenan Allen if he keeps falling back there. Mike Evans, not a lot of Mike Evans. Let's see if I have anybody that's just woefully low down here. Keon, there you go, 2.4% Keon. Any others that stand out? Not really. These are all usually one-offs where I've taken them a couple times with certain correlation. Mike Williams, one time I've taken him. I was listening to Scott Barrett today on the high-stakes draft that he did with Theo and Abib, and he loves Mike Williams. Thought that was interesting. Like, loves Mike Williams. And I'm like, not me. Haven't taken a lot of Mike Williams at all. So, all right, tight ends, and then we'll get back to making some picks here. Tight ends, it's been pretty tame. Noah Fant, Kyle. I've taken a lot of elite tight ends: Pitts, McBride, Njoku, Laporta, Andrews, Kittle. I mean, I've really tried to lean into taking those advantage shots at tight end. And we have this interesting dynamic at tight end last year where the tight end 10 scored 80% of the tight end 1. So we kind of have a thing at tight end where if everybody plays nice and there's not that asshole that decides to double tap tight end for some reason, and I'm okay people double tapping tight end. It's stupid to do in Underdog. I mean, tight end means very little in Underdog. But I've seen people, like I said earlier, they'll double tap tight end, and it's like, okay, now you've thrown it off for everybody. When in reality, if you're going to let me get Bowers, Njoku, Ferguson, Ingram, that's tight end 8, 9, 10, 11. Sure. As long as everybody else takes one, I'll take one of those. And in theory, 11 of us can all have a tight end. We don't need to fight. Nobody needs to fight with each other. But some drafts, somebody will take 2. Another team will take 2. You'll see a team double tap like an Ingram and Kittle, or they'll double tap Laporta, McBride, or something. I mean, I've done it once or twice, but then I go, what am I doing? Did I really just take, I had a team where at the 36-37 spot, I took Laporta, McBride. And it was because I went with correlation with the first and second round picks. So I believe what I had was, I'm trying to think exactly what it was. It was like Gibbs, Marv, and I went Laporta, McBride, just trying to get something different and really hammer like the top 2 options on 2 different offenses. But then I looked at the team and I go like, what am I doing? Why did I do that? Now I have a running back and a tight end and a receiver and a tight end. And what's the plan at quarterback with both of those? Just a mistake. So anyway, there's the exposures. Probably do an update to that when a lot of these drafts close, because I'm going to be shocked with how many of them change once a lot of these drafts get completed. But appreciate you calling me out, Barry. It's nice to always look through those. I haven't looked through them in a couple days anyway, so thank you for that. What did we have earlier? There was a question. Let me put this one up here. Tan Man, you should do a series and season of how your teams are doing every few weeks. Yeah, I've thought about what that looks like. It probably could be just a like quick hit recorded video, because there's not a lot of stuff happening in real time with Underdog during the season. I mean, things are locked down, so it really just kind of goes through looking at each tournament, seeing where maybe you have some teams that are on track. That's a good idea. I can probably do a couple of those. I do think we're going to have some sort of dedicated DD content during the season to kind of give an update on what things are looking like with Underdog. But I don't know if that's exactly going to be individual portfolios or just looking at some of the tournaments. I'm not really sure, but stay tuned. But that is a good idea. Thank you for that. Shank and Shig, what type of financial commitment is required to max center the way you did an Underdog this year? Ballpark is fine. So Spike Week actually tracks it. I mean, you can see here I've put in $5,618 to max center BBM 5. It's $25 a pop, 15 or 150 drafts. So $37.50 to max center BBM 5. I'm doing it because I've never done it. I'll probably do it again. I mean, hopefully when you do this many teams, like, am I going to make a profit? Probably not. I mean, if you get lucky and you have some teams that thread the needle, then maybe. But I think when you do this many teams, you're kind of betting like, all right, I would be able to get some credits back to where I can decide what I want to play next year. I do think one thing that I would do differently, and this is something for anybody out there that likes to play Underdog but doesn't have, a $5,000 bankroll. Like, I do think there are a lot of, I don't want to say soft tournaments, but there are a lot of tournaments that mimic BBM 5. So you have the puppies, you have the Pomeranians, but then there's also some of these smaller tournaments. Like, I didn't really highlight those and they're done for, but let me see if I can find one on here. Like the Greyhound, single entry, $35, single entry. Yes, Barry, I'll probably be around, I would say 800. 750, 800, because I'm going to do, you know what Underdog's going to do. You know they're going to release a couple contests the week before the season. And if they're like a 20 entry max, something like that, I'll probably throw those in there. But yeah, I think I'll probably be around 750 when it ends. But here's the Greyhound. One team, $35. Anybody in here could enter that for $35. And the beauty is, it doesn't matter if you have a $10,000 bankroll, a $1,000 bankroll, or a $100 bankroll. You have as good of a shot as winning as me. Like, that's what I would recommend for players that go into the season. I mean, we have a ton of people in our community that are like, I have $1,000. That's what I'm spending this year. That's what I'm dedicating to Underdog. What do I do with it? And there's a bunch of tournaments where, let me see if I can find another one. The Dachshund. Here you go. The Dachshund. This was 4 entry max, $8. You can build 4 teams. There's a bunch of these. And then there's some others that are 20 entry max. German Shepherd. This was another one. $5. $10 max. A few of these others. I think the Hound Dog was one. Yeah, Hound Dog, $6. 5 teams. Like, don't even worry about BBM 5. Like, if you really want to play a portfolio and you want to max enter a tournament, max enter a Pomeranian, max enter a puppy. That's going to be $500 to $750. I think the Pomeranians were $3. So that would cost you $450 to max enter it. A puppy's $5. It would cost you $750 to max enter it. So you can do that and still play the 150 teams, do a bunch of slow drafts, draft in, June, and then also draft in July and August, because like some of those will take a while to fill. So you can kind of get the idea of spreading your drafts out across the draft season to where you don't have to draft them all in a week or two. You have 6 weeks. You can do like the Pomeranian. You can enter 50 of them as slows. You can mix in some fast drafts in there, and it won't fill. It'll take 3-4 weeks to fill, and then you can max enter it at the end and add 50 more slows. As it gets closer to filling, you enter the rest. So you spread your entire 150 across like a 8-week, 10-week period. So you get to capitalize on some of the changing stuff in training camp, OTAs, etc. But I would just recommend everybody that has a limited budget to make sure you get in all of these tournaments that are limited entry. The ones where it takes a weekend and you can do the 5 drafts that you're allowed to do. There's been a bunch of those. The Rottweiler, I think that was another one. Yeah. Rottweiler, $100, 4 teams. Nice payouts in the Rottweiler. 4 teams. Doesn't matter how much money I have versus how much you have. We can only enter 4. And then you can actually practice like, okay, I'm going to do 4 of these. I'm going to sit down. I'm going to draft one. Then I'm going to sit down and draft another. I'm going to try to structure both teams maybe similarly, but get different players, and then maybe build one a little bit differently. But you get the idea. And the good thing about those, ADP value doesn't matter. A lot of what you hear on pods and content about ADP value doesn't matter. There is no ADP in a tournament that's only open for 4 days. There's none. Hell, Barry can attest. Some of these tournaments on Underdog, they literally launch them on like a Saturday and they're filled by Sunday. Like there isn't really anything that matters other than the structure of your team and picking the right combinations. ADP is irrelevant. And the beauty of it is you can actually go rogue in those drafts. And if you do draft a one-off player, then if you're right, you may literally have one of the only copies in that entire tournament. Unlike a BBM 5 where, yeah, sure, Trey Tucker will only be 5% drafted in BBM 5, maybe higher now that he's starting to get drafted more. But let's say a guy like Trey Tucker is going to be drafted at 10% when the season starts. That's still going to be out of 55,000 BBM 5 drafts, he's going to be drafted by 5,500 teams. So yeah, if he hits, sure. But you still have 1 out of 5,500 combos of Trey Tucker. In one of these smaller tournaments, you may have 1 of 1. Now, you got to be right, but it's just much more fun to think about it that way, where it doesn't matter if somebody that's drafted in 150, because there is a huge thing to be said about ADP value. And if you're drafted in BBM 5, I started drafting BBM 5 May 2nd or whenever it opened. The ADP is so different between now and then somebody that is just scooping up ADP value. That is why you see some of these people that need to fill their BBM 5. They need to get to 150. They will just straight up draft ADP value, and they will use some of these tools or companion tools to just draft the falling ADP value, meaning like comparing ADP in August to May, and they will just draft a couple teams where they're just eating up only that. They will end up with a good structure, maybe like a 2-6-8-2 or something like that. But there won't be the correlation that you would think. There might be a couple games that are correlated. But I've seen some teams where I'm just looking at what they're doing, and I go, all they're doing is scooping up ADP value compared to what people were getting in May. Even if it doesn't correlate, like they will pass on a receiver that stacks, and instead they will take Hollywood Brown in round 8. And you're going, well, that doesn't make sense. You passed on a receiver that you could have stacked with your insert quarterback, right? And they'll just take Hollywood Brown. And the reason is they probably want Hollywood Brown, but they want Hollywood Brown 2 rounds cheaper or 3 rounds cheaper than where everybody else in the tournament was taking. So they don't care about their stack anymore or their correlation anymore. They're just trying to collect some ADP value on teams where they're also getting a little bit of correlation. You have to correlate to win, but you don't need to mega correlate every player versus, man, like I have 6 players that are a round and a half past their ADP from what they were back in May. And I have 2 double stacks. That's a fun team to build. So that's what's interesting, and that's the disadvantage if you only have 5 BBM 5s, because guaranteed there's somebody in your draft that has 50, 75, 100, max entered, and they're doing stuff like that. And it's hard to compete with that when you know there's people that are literally playing against themselves. So yeah, Dynasty Bear, appreciate you, man. Like that's the kind of stuff that I've really kind of thought about and learned, and I'm really excited to see how this kind of stuff translates to the bigger picture, because this is just getting started. I mean, this is just Underdog. Wait till there's a lot of other things that start bringing in this type of strategy. Like it's only going to go from here. So appreciate you calling that out. Let's see. I got to make this pick. 43 minutes left on the clock. It's a slow puppy. I'm at a 2.582. We got Daniels and Stafford, Aaron Jones, Mostert, Eckler, Pierce, Will Shipley. Yikes. Don't love that running back room. Puka, Waddle, Kupp, Amari, Jaden Reed, Christian Watson, Dotson, Michael Wilson. What do I got here? Jaden and Stafford. So we got Stafford, Kupp, and Puka. We got Jaden Daniels with Dotson and Njoku. Got some Tyler Conklin there. So I probably need a running back here. Aaron Jones is my RB1 with Eckler as my RB3, Damian Pierce, Will Shipley. Let's see what we got on running backs. Parkinson's interesting, but don't need him on this team with Conklin and Njoku. Oh, give me a sleeper running back in here that I probably don't have any in the puppy. Who should I scroll down for? I like Roschon Johnson. Don't really care about correlation. Got Deontay Foreman. He's interesting with the Pierre Strong injury today. Anybody see an update on Pierre Strong today? Any updates on Strong? I thought it was an upper body injury, and then I seen in our Discord that somebody said it was like he needed like an AD on the field, something like that. I mean, that kind of makes me want to hammer some Deontay Foreman, especially with the team where I already have some Miami, some Waddle, Njoku correlation. Mostert, Waddle, and Njoku. Foreman might be a good pick here. If anybody can give me some updates on Pierre Strong, I know somebody might be watching. See, what else could we do? Might not be good for him. Yeah, Dr. B, normally tapped into that stuff. Might not be good from what I saw. Nothing definitive. Cody, you want me to take Dearness Johnson? How about Cam Akers, bro? This was fake news? Yeah, Terrell, you were the one that had posted that, so I'm relying on you, bro. Tell me if it's real or not. Is Deontay Foreman a good pick here? Come on, is he a good pick? 8% Deontay Foreman already in the slate, so I don't really want to take another one. But that's good that was fake news for Pierre Strong, by the way, because I saw that and I was like, the report was that he got injured running through the tackling dummies, and then he's getting pulled off the field on an ambulance. I'm like, what is that? Updated Browns. Pierre Strong has a rib contusion, released from the hospital. Okay. Yeah, Cody, give me the insight on Cam Akers. I was able to talk to Jesse Morse at the Expo. I actually asked him on his panel. It was a funny story. I was at the panel, sitting in the audience because I had a panel next, so I was just sitting waiting for ours to start. So I'm sitting in the audience, and the last 15 minutes or so they take questions, and I had inadvertently. I wanted to max enter one of these tournaments because I was doing underdog drafts while I was at the expo, and I max entered 32. I think it was not the Greyhounds. It was the Goldens or something. One of the tournaments where it was a 50 entry max, and the mini Schnauzer, that was the one. And so I'm like, oh, I'm just gonna max enter the rest. I didn't realize that I clicked on 32 entries of 30-second timers. So I was scrambling. I was able to get out of 27 of the 32, but I was drafting. I had 5 going on at once on my phone. And I wanted to ask Jesse Morse on Cam Akers. Like, I wanted to ask him, like, okay, Cam Akers blow both Achilles. He should be like better now, right? He should be like 100% because both of his Achilles are like, they're indestructible. I mean, I've known numerous people that have torn their Achilles. I had a cousin that blew both Achilles, like one after another, like 4 years apart. And I remember after the first one, he had came over to my house and we were throwing the football around, and I was like, yeah, what is it? Like, tell me the difference between, because, we always wonder what these athletes are going through. And he used to play football. He was in the Marines. So he's, pretty in shape. And he was like, yeah, the one that I tore is like indestructible. Now it feels a little different. You don't have the same like explosion. It doesn't feel exactly the same, but he's like, it's indestructible. Like it almost feels like it's made of steel. And so I never forgot that, and then Cam Akers hurt both. So I'm like, okay, he looks good. That's the thing. He looks good. Like, Cody, give me your thoughts. Is he going to make the team? Because he looks good. So then you tell me he's got both Achilles that are almost indestructible. I don't know. Maybe Dr. B knows. Does that mean he's more susceptible to calf injury, hamstring? I don't know. But I just asked him, I'm like, hey, Jesse, does this mean Cam Akers could be back because now he's symmetric? And they kind of laughed. They were like, yeah, maybe. But we don't know because we've never seen a player that has had both and has actually played again. So neither here nor there. But I need to make a last pick. Foreman or Akers? What should I do? Not taking no Carson Steele. Foreman or Akers? I have Damian Pierce. I probably shouldn't take Akers. I'm going to go Foreman. That's going to be the pick. Boom. Done with that one. That draft is done. Yeah, Cody, I knew you'd be on Foreman. Plus, I have Akers. Plus, I have Pierce already. There's probably not a smart bet to draft both Pierce and Akers on the same team, given that one of them probably eats the other. Flowosaurus, dark horses, Jamal Williams. I mean, I haven't drafted any Jamal Williams, but it's not Kendre. Maybe I should take a little bit of Jamal Williams because I have a lot of Kendre and hedge against that Kendre Miller. So, all right, another marathon. What do I have on this one? Man. I took Lamar. I got JT. I got HN. This is a Mark Andrews team. Fuck that ADP. Let's just rip that Mark Andrews. Give me that Andrews with Lamar. Probably could have taken Josh Allen instead, but who cares? Get some Lamar Andrews in my life. Yeah, that's my worry is Taysom is going to get some of the designed close-in goal line work that Jamal Williams might have got, but it is what it is. I think Jamal's a justifiable pick if you're out there drafting guys like the Chiefs running backs or you're drafting the other Texans running backs besides Pierce, Akers. I mean, you're taking either of those guys. Deontay Foreman. Like, what's the difference between Deontay Foreman and Jamal Williams other than Taysom Hill's not on the Browns? I don't know. All right, what do we got here? So we got a BBM 5. Let's take this one seriously. This is the one that's going to have to thread the needle. What do we got? We got a CeeDee Lamb, Chris Olave, Cooper Kupp. Hey, one of the few teams I have Cooper Kupp. Look at that. Cooper Kupp at 28 in a BBM 5. So I got him in old BBM 5 prices here. And then Olave at 21 before Olave was going, top 15, top 16. So this is a nice start. This actually is a team I don't want to screw up. CeeDee Lamb at 4, Chris Olave at 21, and Cooper Kupp at 28. So I'm back on the clock at 45. Rashee Rice just went. Oh, Trey McBride. Yeah, got to rip some Amari Cooper here. Just take Amari. Probably come back around. Maybe I'll get McLaurin. Maybe I'll get another. You see, this is the problem. If I take Amari here, next time I pick, it's going to be Terry McLaurin. It's going to be Xavier Worthy and Calvin Ridley. And I'm just going to want to click both of those guys. I'm not going to take Trey McBride. He'll be gone. Pickens will probably go. But it's just going to end up with the same type of start. And as you can see here, I mean, look at this. 33% of my Amari Cooper are on teams with Chris Olave. So, but you know what? Let's hammer another one. Let's make it 50% now. All right, so Amari's on board there. What are we at? 9:05. I think Ray's doing an AMA in the Discord here soon, so I'm going to wrap this up in about 10 minutes, maybe make some other picks. Here's a Superflex. Let's do a couple Superflex. These are ones I wish I would have done more of. Wish I would have done more of these Pomeranian Superflex. I will say, the Superflex ones on Underdog, I'm not going to shit on them because obviously this show is sponsored by Underdog, but I have really enjoyed the FFPC Superflex tournaments. Talk about soft. I mean, Underdog, I don't think a lot of people really are truly like fully invested in doing Superflex, but Underdog, they're a little sharper than FFPC. FFPC, the Superflex tournament, has been super fun. Like that is going to be my first best ball tournament that I get into once the season ends. They have a Superflex tournament, the never too early Superflex tournament that runs from the Senior Bowl, right before the Senior Bowl, to the NFL draft. And I'll do some Underdog before then, but I'm not going to do, last year Ray and I did, or this year Ray and I did a bunch of the single QB ones. And I'm like, at the time I was excited, but we really should have just done the Superflex one because the single QB drafts are just so abundant on Underdog. It's like, why do we did 40 FFPC $125 Superflex or single QB drafts before the NFL draft. Single QB. And I'm just like, why? Why did we do those given how many single QB drafts there's going to be in Underdog? So anyway, if anybody wants a Superflex tournament, save up for that. It's $35 a pop. And I believe it's I think it's 150, but I probably won't do 150, but I want to get probably 50 of those, and it's FFPC. So if you like Superflex, I would do those before I would do a single Underdog Superflex draft. They are more fun. They are softer. People don't understand the construction. It's 1.5 tight end premium, and it's only start 2 receivers. People just don't understand the construction there. So, Chef, appreciate you. Can't give enough respect for the grind, information, and how you treat the community. Goat, thank you. Thank you, man. Means a lot. Means a lot, my friend. Thank you for joining the stream. Thank you for the kind words. Let's see what we got going on this team. So it's a Superflex. I got Burrow and Daniels. This is one where I kind of wish a quarterback would have fallen to me. Russ Wilson's still sitting there. Russ Wilson's still sitting there. That's it for starting quarterbacks. Man. We got Cody in here. Cody, you still here? If you're here, Cody, let me know. Should I rip that Russ Wilson? 0 Russell Wilson. 0. How long does he start? What are my bye weeks here? I got Jaden 12, Burrow 14, or Burrow 12, Jaden 14. Here's what we got, Cody. There's the QBs. Unfortunately, in some of these Superflex drafts, some poor soul will get J.J. McCarthy auto-picked in every damn one of them. But Russ is it left at quarterback. You got Taysom. I could always sneak Taysom in there, but Russ's bye is different than the 2 starters. J-Day, what do you say, Barry? J-Day and Burrow got your back. Don't need that Russ when you're at 0 anyway. Yeah, I agree. I'm not feeling Russ. And I kind of feel like since I have so much Fields out there that's a bet I'm willing just to live with, all or nothing. Like, I think I have one Underdog team that has Russ. One out of, 500 plus? And I have a bunch of draft. I think I have 70 teams on DraftKings. 0 Russ. Like, I don't have any Russ. So I'll pass on him in not even take the plunge here. So what do I got? I got a 2-2-4-0 build. Nice Burrow, Higgins, McLaurin, Jaden. Don't have a tight end. What are we looking at tight end here? Njoku. Running back, Swift, Warren, Javonte. Javonte is tempting. I love getting Javonte on I can get Javonte coming back. 4 receivers. Any obvious receivers here? You got Hollywood Brown. That's the tough part about the Superflex is you're not going to correlate. But you know what? I'm going to take... You know what? I'm just going to get Javonte out of the way because I don't really care about what comes up next. So I'm going to go Javonte Williams here because he's not going to come back to me. It's either here or it's at the 10:03. So I just love having Javonte on teams with Burrow and with Higgins or Chase. So boom, Javonte Williams is the pick. And we'll make a couple more, then I'll sign off. And anybody in the Discord, jump over in the AMA. Ray's probably going to start here in 5 minutes-ish, I would think. So, yeah, join him over there. I'll jump in as soon as I make the rest of these picks. I got about an hour to get a lot of these in. So, I mean, look at this. Just madness. All of these got to be made. I got to go downstairs and just chill. Make another 70 picks. I'm sure all of these ones that are 9 or 10 hours have jumped on the clock since I started streaming. So, like, another, 20. I've made maybe 15 picks on the stream, and I've been jumping on the clock in more than I've actually made. So I'm actually a net negative force of the day. So let's make a couple more and then we'll sign off. What do we got? Another marathon here. Let's see. Breece, Derrick Henry. Oh, Breece, Derrick Henry, and Travis Etienne sitting right there. That is a ripper. Give me that Etienne. Love to see it. Love to see that Breece, Henry, Etienne start. And since I'm picking in the middle, I will fall right into the range of Lamar, Mahomes, Allen, Hurts. One of them will fall into my lap. All right, let's rip a BBM 5 here. Let's see. What do we got? Oh, this is a brand new one. I entered a couple this morning. Look at that. This is the first time I've seen this draft. I just entered 4 more BBMs to get to 125 this morning. Look at that. How about that? Amon-Ra at 101. Not a badge player. So I don't know about that Amon-Ra 101. I don't know about that. That feels like a perfect gift from the gods, right? Remember I said I don't have a lot of McCaffrey because I didn't have a lot of 101 or 102. So time to rip some McCaffrey. Let's go. Thank you, Irby 494 that took Amon-Ra at 101. What do you guys think about that? How negative EV Barry is taking that Amon-Ra at 101? What's the point of doing that? I mean, I get it. You only have one draft. You want to build your team, but you're trying to win a tournament against 672,000 teams, and you take a player that goes at the 105 through 108. You better build something extremely different. Now, taking him at the 101, you should get a little bit of a different team, except for the fact that range at the 2-3 turn has been so in flux for the last 3 months that I don't know if you're getting a unique, like that team may go Amon-Ra Amon-Ra, Olave, Ayuk, right? They could go Ayuk, Olave at the 2-3 turn, but unfortunately there's going to be other teams that also have Amon-Ra, Ayuk, Olave, but they built them not by drafting Amon-Ra at the 101. So they're going to end up getting better value round 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and they're still going to have the same combo. So I doesn't make sense. I mean, even if you wanted more Amon-Ra and you only had 5 drafts, like you just don't take them at the 101. So pretty negative EV, but I'll lock in McCaffrey. Give me some McCaffrey. Joshua, what is good, Joshua? It's very negative. I'd love for you in the Discord later to expand why it's very negative, because I think it's an important concept when you're talking about tournaments. People will just say, I'm only doing 5 teams. I wouldn't only do 5 teams in BBM 5, but that's neither here nor there. But if you're only doing 5 teams in the tournament, you probably shouldn't just take those 5 teams and go completely rogue. You know, like don't just go, oh, I like all these players, so I'm going to take 5 teams and I'm going to go ahead of ADP just to get this, to get that, to get this, to get that. Because when you're playing against even only 100,000 teams, like it's going to be duped, and it's going to be duped at a much worse value for you compared to the rest of the field. So All right, I'm going to make these picks. Let me see. I have 6 more picks with an hour clock. I'm going to make those, and I'm going to stop, take a little break, jump into the stream in the Discord. Here's another marathon. What do we got? Bijan, Achane. Look at that. Running backs just get ripped. I always have to find Ray in these drafts because I guarantee Ray just rips the running backs. See, was Ray in this one? Oh, maybe Ray wasn't in this one. Maybe he avoided me in this one. But let's see. We're probably down to Jacobs. Yep. I am here. This is a perfect Allen Kincaid team. I will go Allen at 31. That's a no-brainer. We'll get Kincaid coming back. Love doing that because I'm not going to get a lot of Allen and Kincaid. Yeah, Cody, you're right. If you do that, you're probably just dabbling in Underdog. Hey, I got a free deposit bonus, right? Use that promo code ALLGAS. Got up to 250. Let me enter some BBM 5s. Cool. I draft Amon-Ra at 101. Maybe at 112, 201, I decide to go Achane Waddle, something like that. I've seen a couple of those. I've seen some wild shit in BBMs. Not even the ones that get thrown out, but just a team that'll go Ayuk Debo on the turn. You know, don't want to go Gibbs Debo, Ayuk Debo. When there's going to be teams that have Ayuk and Debo taking them at the 2 and the 3. But you took them at the 112, 201. Like you're just hemorrhaging there. Even if you got ADP value with nice correlation, the rest of the draft, you don't make up for the fact that you took both of those guys a round and a half, or at least a half a round or a round and a half ahead of their ADP. So it just doesn't make sense. And yeah, Josh, you're right. Every draft, you'll see 1 or 2 people and you're like, no plan stand with that team. All right, what do I got here? Oh, look at that. Breece Pacheco Etienne and Lamar Jackson in my lap. Man, how this might be the one that has potential to get Breece, Pacheco, Etienne, Lamar, and Andrews. I'm going to cross my fingers. I'll have no clue when that draft comes back up. I do not rename my draft, so I'm going to go Lamar here. And hopefully when I get back at the 506, which will be right past Andrews ADP, maybe they will let me have a bone in that draft and get me a Lamar Andrews stack at the 4-5, which is awesome because there's a couple I've already taken at the 3-4. So this is a BBM. We got Jamar and Nico Collins, Mike Evans. Man, I cannot take Derrick Henry in BBM, but I kind of want to build a team that has one of these running backs. 9% DK. Could go for a double Texan stack, but I have here 31% Stephon Diggs with Nico Collins. Only 15% Tank Dell with Nico Collins. So could go either one of those, but I'm going to pivot. I'm going to go with DK. Gives me another option if I don't want to get Stroud or Burrow. So we will go with DK on this team. Haven't been able to click a lot of Mike Evans, to be honest. Like, honestly, the more I look at it, like, why is Chris Godwin going 3-4 rounds behind Mike Evans? I don't understand that one. Somebody tell me why. Why does Godwin go so far behind Evans? I mean, honestly, Godwin's peak, I know it hasn't been recently, but Godwin's peak has been better than Evans, which is interesting. But people just have Evans there at wide receiver 17 through 20 and Godwin's wide receiver 35 to 40. Just don't understand it. So, all right. 3 more. Another BBM 5. What do I got rolling in this one? We are in round 8. I got a 0-1-5-1. I did go Bijan with London, Diggs, Flowers, Adunze, Keon Coleman, and Mark Andrews. So I have a nice Diggs, Flowers, Andrews correlation, and then Bijan and Drake London. Man, this is a ugly board. This is definitely an ugly board. Jalen Warren sitting there, Zamir White sitting there, some week 15 correlation with Zamir White. Who already have a tight end, so the ADP value on Ferguson doesn't make a lot of sense. Sutton, you know what? I'm going to go with some Sutton. Don't have a lot of Sutton. And since I already have 5 receivers, this will be my 6th. I can go Sutton. This is probably a Zach Moss team that I know I'll be able to come back and get Zach Moss potentially. And so we're going to go with Sutton. Don't have a lot of Sutton. And it could be a 3 quarterback build as well, since I already have a tight end locked down. If I have an early tight end, I'm definitely only going 2, and it might be a 3 quarterback build. And I do want to get some more Bo Nix, so let's go with Cortland Sutton. No QB on this one yet, Barry. No one. So setting up, maybe getting Nix later on a 3 QB build where I've already taken a tight end. So if I'm going to take 3 QBs, it's going to be on a team where I already have a tight end locked down. So it actually fits perfectly. 2 more picks. Then I'll be done. Then we're hitting the Discord. Let's see. Mini Schnauzer 7. So this is going to be one that's already pretty far in. We're in round 12. Ooh, I'm on the clock. We get a double dip here. I'm at a 0-4-5-1. I probably ripped receivers. Yep. Debo, Diggs, Godwin, Deontay, Addison. Oh, I remember this team. This is a nice one. Got those 5 receivers with Laporta and with Gibbs, Aaron Jones, Zach Moss, Tajay Spears. I really like this team. I really do. I mean, I don't have a quarterback yet, but I really do like this team already with a 1-4-5-1 build or a 0-4-5-1 build. So let's see what we got. Quarterbacks. All my stack options are pretty much gone. Purdy's gone. Stroud's gone. Baker's still there. Bryce Young is still there. Darnold is still there. So I have those 3 to still rescue me. Goff is gone. So missed out on Goff. Debo and Purdy. He's gone. And then running backs, I'm kind of set at running back. So I can kind of go BPA here. I had Darnell Mooney in the queue. Double tapping here. Kind of thinking... No obvious stacks with Herbert. Probably going to go receiver running back here. And then I just have to hope that I find some quarterback value that follows me. I probably have to double tap quarterback in round 13, 14. It's probably going to be like a Baker, I don't know, a Baker Darnold at some point, or, you know, maybe I'll have to back end my second tight end. Cousins will be there if I take Mooney. That's one of the reasons I would take Mooney. So we're going to go Mooney here. So we'll go Mooney, and Cousins will be there. And then, you know what? I'm guessing I'm going to go Austin Eckler. And some nice correlation there that if even I don't get Cousins, I already have Eckler in the fold. So, boom. We are at a 0-5-6-1 build. That is definitely going to be a 3 QB build. I already have an elite tight end, so that'll set up perfectly. But that'll be an interesting team to follow. That's totally different how I've been building. Normally, I'm trying to get an elite QB sometime in there instead of just drafting 5 running backs. I'm willing to go a little deeper at running back as long as I get one of the QBs, but just none of them lined up there. So last one, promise. Superflex Palm. This is probably around 10. What do we got on here? Law. This is a sexy one. Lamar. This is how I'm typically building the Superflex. Lamar, Lawrence, T-Law, or Lamar, T-Law, Tua. Stack-wise, I got Zay. No other stacks. Got that Najee, James Conner correlation with the Cooper Kupp. So let's see what we can roll with here. We're at a 3-2-3-1. Receivers. Yeah, I can pass on the receivers here. Running backs. Oh, yeah. Yeah. We got T-Law. Only 11% Pollard in this tournament. Already have Najee, so Warren is definitely out even if he falls. So we're going to go with old Tony Pollard. Gives me a third RB, gives me some correlation with that T-Law, and we are done. All right, everybody. Appreciate you hanging in. Hour, 25 minutes. Made a lot of picks. Probably made 20 picks. Probably got on the clock in another 25 drafts. So I'm still net negative for the stream. But I really enjoyed this. This will probably be the last formal show. Maybe I'll get on during like Labor Day weekend sometime then and just do a couple drafts if I have to do some lives to get the final tally in for the year. But other than that, a lot of stuff coming with Underdog and Destination Devi. Join the Discord, patreon.com/allgas. Appreciate everybody jumping in. It was fun, taking some questions. Bunch of people in here that I know are in the Underdog streets as well. So see you on the other side and be chill, everyone.